Today's story is The Two Kittens and the Mysterious Red Button. Once upon a time, in a cozy little house at the edge of town, there lived two twin kittens named Joshua and Buckle. Joshua, the older by a whisker, was always curious, while Buckle, the younger, had a knack for finding trouble where no one else could see it. One sunny afternoon, as the kittens explored their home, they stumbled upon something curious, a shiny red button on the wall near the kitchen. It was small, round, and seemed to be begging to be pressed. Joshua's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "I wonder what it does," he meowed, batting at the button with his paw. Buckle, always eager to join in on any mischief, grinned mischievously. "Let's press it and find out." Without a second's thought, Joshua reached up and pressed the button with a firm paw. At first, nothing happened. The kittens stared at each other, puzzled, until suddenly they heard a loud whoosh from the kitchen. They dashed to the doorway, only to find the button had activated the kitchen's automatic cat food dispenser. Kibble poured out in a great heap, spilling onto the floor in a mountain of delicious crunchies. Joshua and Buckle's eyes grew wide with excitement. "A feast!" they exclaimed together, and without hesitation they dove into the pile, munching away happily. But as they ate, the kibble kept coming, and soon it was spilling into the living room, under the couch, and even into their favorite sleeping spot. Before long, the entire house was filled with kibble. As the mountain of food grew, the kittens realized they were in over their heads. "Oh no, what have we done?" Joshua meowed, his mouth full of kibble. Buckle, with kibble stuck to his fur, looked around at the mess they had made. "We've got to stop it," he cried. They both scrambled back to the button, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't reach it, now that it was buried under the growing pile of food. Panicked, they looked around for help. Just then, their owner, Mrs. Whiskers, walked in, gasped at the sight. "What in the world?" she exclaimed, quickly rushing to turn off the dispenser. With the button pressed and the kibble finally stopped, the kittens sat in the middle of the mess, their bellies full and their hearts heavy with guilt. Mrs. Whiskers looked at the two kittens and shook her head, though there was a hint of a smile on her face. "Oh, Joshua and Buckle, you two are always getting into trouble. But what's the lesson here, The kittens thought for a moment. Joshua spoke first. "We should have been more careful before pressing something we didn't understand." Buckle nodded in agreement. "We shouldn't have let our curiosity get the better of us without thinking about the consequences." Mrs. Whiskers smiled and gave them both a gentle pat. "That's right. Curiosity is good, but it's important to think before you act. Now let's clean up this mess together." And so, Joshua and Buckle learned an important lesson that day. Sometimes a little patience and thought can prevent a lot of trouble. From that day on, the two kittens were a bit more cautious, but they never lost their sense of adventure. That was The Two Kittens and the Mysterious Red Button. Hopefully you enjoyed this story. If you like wholesome, good family stories that can be read to your family, please feel free to subscribe. We always try to have a good moral at the end of the story. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.